Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about funding and monetization. Now, as some of you may have seen, Invictus is over now and the numbers have come in, and CIG has not made as much as they did last year. Now, that being said, they made a lot of money last year, and we'll get into that. Now, similarly, there was also a little bit of drama on Spectrum because some individuals from the community realized that certain ships went up in price. They posted about it, and Xylo responded. CIG also decided to revert the changes until June 27th. So I want to talk about both of those things and a little bit about the ship roundtable that we had recently. So if you guys like this content, hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this from me, hit subscribe. I'm a theory crafting channel, and I like talking about the game and the community. Now, to kind of kick things off, I think a lot of the opinions around why CIG didn't make as much this year, they make sense, right? The game was not as in as playable state. You're probably seeing, footage right now behind me. I kind of just took out the hammerhead and wanted to fly around Everest Harbor, I believe this was, and look at the fireworks as the Invictus week has ended. Now, I'm dropping a lot of frames here. It's not smooth performance, and that's kind of like a drop in the bucket compared to the performance issue that some people have been having. Second thing is the ships on offer. Now, last year we had the Scorpius and the Legionnaire, which are what some people say were more desirable ships, but I feel like it kind of doesn't really come down to that. Now, the biggest argument people are saying is that there are more players now than there was during Invictus last week, so CIG should have made more in theory because there were just more people to buy ships. Now, in my opinion, this really comes down to the conversation that CIG had during the all ships roundtable. And the first and one of the biggest questions that Jared asked was, is there such thing as too many ships? And the ship team kind of responded in an obvious way. The answer was no, there's kind of no such thing as too many ships. It really comes down to what roles these ships play. And from a logical standpoint, that makes sense. But I think they were answering that question from a gameplay perspective. And I kind of looked at that question as a monetization perspective, because the reality is CIG sells ships, and selling ships is their primary source of income to develop the game. So if you ask the question, is there such thing as too many ships? Well, you're really asking the question is, can the marketing team continue to sell ships to fund the game forever? And I've kind of talked about this topic a little bit in my previous videos about Star Citizen's development and monetization model. I don't think Star Citizen's monetization model is that bad in comparison to contemporary games. Games like even the upcoming Diablo 4, which has a $70 box price. It has a deluxe edition. It has a cash shop. It has a battle pass, and it has cosmetic store. So it's basically monetized in just about every way you can monetize a game. In Star Citizen's case, they sell a starter package and ships and cosmetics. So it's pretty straightforward. Now, moving forward, I think they should maintain this monetization strategy. I'm really not suggesting that CIG branch off into different, monetization strategies, but it's something to look at based on the kind of ships that are coming out. And a perfect example of this is the new ship, the Tumble Storm ground vehicle. A lot of people question is this vehicle useful? It is, a single person armored vehicle platform with a single size 3 energy repeater. Now, what would I have liked to see, and what would I think would have made sense? First of all, get rid of the treads. Doesn't make any sense. I say it too much. It's to the point where, I feel like you guys watching the videos, you're sick and tired of hearing me say the word hovercraft, but there's really no reason why this vehicle should have treads. I think someone said in one of my videos, the turrets target hovercrafts, and CIG could easily fix that by making the turrets not target hovercrafts, and just make more hovercrafts. Because the reality is, the prerequisite for having a game that's as expansive as Star Citizen really comes down to roads. And if you're gonna offer a lot of vehicles with wheels, you kind of need roads to make them make sense. Secondly, there is a lot of obstacles in the way. Like, even if, let's stop for a second and say, even if CIG made roads, there would still be like 90% of the planet's surface that would be unexplorable, inaccessible to a conventional vehicle. A hovercraft is the best way to explore the ground. And if you have an armored hovercraft, you're really allowing the player to get into any situation possible. Second of all is the weapon. A bespoke, non-changeable size 3 energy weapon is not my first choice for a vehicle platform like this. I would have loved to see them put like a ball mount that you could put a size 4 on, because then you could put the AD ballistic size 4s on there, and that would be great. And you can shred and tear up and really do some damage to just about anything. And on top of that being a hovercraft, to me that would have been a no-brainer pick. It would have been easy for people to buy, because especially with item stripping now, you can take different weapons off of different vehicles. Let's say you get this single person hover tank and you go out and you find a Corsair that just a player left at some outpost. You could take the size 4 cannons off and just put it on the Storm. So I really feel like CIG needs to think about this gameplay and have it in mind when they're creating ships, how a player is going to use this. And that's what it comes down to. I feel like they're trying to use the rule of cool, and they're trying to find what they think would be kind of interesting. I feel like they really need to get somebody on board that can really brainstorm really interesting segments, because I said it in my video about what kind of vehicles I wanted to see in the game. I stepped out and I got creative. What about a harvesting vehicle? Okay, you have all these harvestables. You can only pick them up by hand, but we all know that in Star Citizen you have hand mining, you have vehicle mining, and you have ship mining. So why doesn't the harvestable system work the same way? Why wouldn't you have hand harvesting, vehicle harvesting, and ship harvesting? To me, it makes sense. You spawn trees with the harvestables in the tree, and you hit it with a laser, and you get the stuff, and it makes a box in your ship like the Vulture, but it's processed food. To me, it really comes down to thinking about the gameplay. How do you want the players to use this vehicle? I think a lot of times they come up with the vehicle and then they say, here, players, take it and do whatever you want with it. And I think that from the outset, CIG should have more of a fleshed out intended use case for these vehicles, an intended gameplay loop. A lot of times we get ships and they don't even have the gameplay. They don't have missions. And I've said it before in other videos, I think every vehicle needs to have a PvE mission tied to it. That way, if you don't come across other players or you don't want to engage with other players, your ship isn't useless. You should have a tab in the missions folder on your Mobi-Glass that says, hey, there's these NPCs that need to be refueled. Take out your Starfare and refuel them. Hey, there are these NPCs that need transport. Take out your transport vehicle and transport them. That type of thing. And I do know that stuff is coming, but it is vital when you're selling ships. And to me, that's part of the big reason why I think this Invictus was less successful. We have a lot of ships and there are a lot of things that you can buy, but there's not a lot of gameplay for them. And now that the game is becoming more fleshed out, more people can see what the vision actually is. They want to actually get in the game and use what they can to progress in any way they can. The second point of that is the progress cycle. Now, I still want to make a second video on this, but I want to go into more detail on why I think the 90-10 economy needs to be thrown in the garbage and a hybrid player PvE economy should replace it. It's basically what we have now, just more advanced, more thought out. Because Star Citizen is not a game. Star Citizen is an MMO/sim. And the main difference between an MMO and a regular multiplayer game is the connection between the players, the economy. Why do people do things they do in an MMO versus what they do in a game? In a game, it usually has something called linear progression. You start at one stage and you end at another stage. So a conventional multiplayer game is pretty linear and easy to understand why you're doing things. MMOs are always a lot more open-ended. Yes, they sometimes have a linear progression system. There are a lot of MMOs that are like theme parks where you begin at a certain point and you're supposed to end at a certain point. But your motivation for doing things is to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And this needs to be key to what drives players to do things in Star Citizen. Now, a lot of people talk about building bases, and I made a video about that. They talk about, territory control and all this stuff. But why would you do any of those things? Right now, there's no motivation. There's no motivation to do anything to get ahead of another player. Why? Okay? It all comes down to an economy. An economy gives people the reason to do things, a reason to be competitive, a reason to strive for more, okay? A reason to make your name in this game. Comments have also said that Star Citizen is kind of really not about you being the hero. It's kind of about you being, a person that just exists in this universe. And a part that makes you feel so small is how little of an impact you have on the game. But in my personal opinion, if there is an opportunity for you to get ahead in this universe, not doing so would make you feel even smaller. Imagine for a second a scenario where, you could become a corporate mogul and, set up, be the leader of this big org and affect all this change in the game. If you were to just do nothing in the game, you would feel even less significant than you already do now because you're choosing to do nothing. So, in my personal opinion, adding an economy in a game will actually make the game, the universe, feel even bigger. So, that's a little tangent. Let's get a little bit back on track and talk a little bit now about CIG raising ship prices. And to me, it really comes back down to the use cases of these ships. Ships like the Cutlass Black, it's very useful. A lot of players want it. But they're raising the price on it because other ships aren't as useful right now. So they're extracting the money out of their most useful ships in the game, like the Avenger and the Hurricane and the Cutlass. Why not just make more useful ships? And that way you have something to sell to people. Now, we have a lot of fighters in this game, but we only have one solo mining ship. We have, one multi-crew mining ship. We have, one solo salvage ship. We have one multi-crew salvage vehicle ship. Why not expand on that? Why not give us, a competitor to the Prospector? Let's say this new ship that does mining, instead of, filling the rocks in these saddlebags like the Prospector, let's say this mining ship gives you 1 SU boxes. You can still take these SU boxes to refine, but it packages it in these boxes because it does a better job at ciphering out inert materials. Now, we know that the Prospector was initially supposed to be able to do that, but it's balancing. Or we would go back. So let's change it up a little bit. Let's say that this prospecting vehicle, whenever you go out and you mine, whatever you mine, you cannot refine, but it gets rid of inert materials. So you get a 1 SU box that you have to sell directly. You cannot refine the ore that you get from this mining vehicle. And in my opinion, you make it an entry-level mining vehicle because the refining gameplay loop is a little bit more advanced. This kind of introduces new players into mining. They don't have to worry about refining the ore. They can just mine it and sell it and be done. They don't have to worry about saddlebags, moving them to other ships, refining, doing all that gameplay. And then as you get better at actually mining, changing the mining heads, using different attachments, finding different rocks, then you can move up to the Prospector, where now you get the saddlebags and you can refine and you can work together with groups of other players. Then you go into the mole. And so the Prospector is like $155. Let's say they sell a $100 mining ship. Again, it makes boxes. You cannot refine the ore. So that kind of balances it. It's a little bit cheaper option, more entry-level mining vehicle. And to me, that would be a huge seller because mining is, very lucrative. But this kind of speeds up the process. It kind of, changes up the gameplay loop. It is a completely different gameplay loop than the Prospector because, again, you're not refining the ore that you mine. You're just selling it straight out of the back of your ship. But this also means that this mining ship will have a cargo hold like the Vulture. So if you wanted to do a little bit of salvage as well as mining, you could do that. If you wanted to put your mining heads in different mining heads in the back of the cargo area, you could do that. So I feel like CIG is not being creative in the right ways. They're letting the rule of cool kind of lead and guide their decisions too much. I feel like they need to get somebody who is just an idea person. They're not a developer. All they do is they play the game and they come up with different ideas. Maybe get player feedback, do a poll, have a competition. I know they did that in the past where they'd be like, they would kind of show you the silhouette of a ship and they would ask you what kind of ship would you want. I think they should just allow players to actually put in entries, like the suggestion I just made. Let's say that was an entry, and players would make a video of a kind of ship that they want to see added to the game, and its use case, its gameplay. They would completely come up with what they want to see added, kind of like the Redeemer. But instead of actually designing the ship, you would just come up with a concept for it. So all these players would put in all these different concepts for ships, and CIG could just make a list and go through that and start making ships like that. You know, I feel like this kind of, crowdsourced idea is smart, because the player base, they're kind of like the man on the ground. They deal with the bugs every day. They put in the hours. They kind of know what areas would make sense, what gameplay loops might need a ship. I mean, you look at something like the DS, and it plays like the Rock DS plays like a vehicle made by somebody who doesn't play Star Citizen. And that's the problem. There are a lot of ships and vehicles in this game, like the Drake Mule. On paper it seems cool, but it feels like it was designed by somebody who doesn't play Star Citizen. No one in their right mind would ever use a vehicle like that to move a box. It doesn't make any sense. You would obviously use a tractor beam to move cargo. And so it's really difficult to give advice to CIG, because again, I'm not a developer. I don't know how hard or difficult it would be to implement a type of new thing. But in my opinion, CIG has a ton of options of different ships that they can make. So if you were to ask me, there's no such thing as too many ships. There are tons of categories of ships that CIG could make that are actually good. They're just not doing that right now. Right now, what I'm seeing so far is not that impressive. I mean, we have Alien Week coming up, and what do we have on offer? CIG is probably going to heavily market the Raylan. They're probably going to, the new Santok EI is coming out. It's a heavy fighter. Okay, heavy fighter is probably going to be $200. So what? Why would I buy that? It doesn't make any sense. The Raylan, okay, that's kind of cool. It's cargo, it's alien, it's a little bit more of an option. I feel like the Raylan is probably going to be the biggest seller of Alien Week. Again, the Santok is cool, but in my opinion, that's kind of more niche. But let me know what you guys think. I feel like this is a very interesting topic. I feel like, it really all comes down to the ships. And CIG, the ball is in their court. They can make really, really cool ships and vehicles at good prices that everyone wants to buy. So they don't need to raise prices. They can always keep making more money infinitely. Or they can follow the rule of cool and make vehicles that we don't need and won't buy, and inevitably have to raise the prices on actually valuable vehicles. Now, you guys have been killing it in the comments. You guys have been knocking it out of the park, subscribing, and I really appreciate that. You guys are honestly amazing. This channel is growing so fast, and it's all thanks to you guys. I like having discussions with you guys, so please leave a comment down in below this video. I always love responding. So that's gonna be it from me here today, you guys. Like I always say, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Salute.